or some kind of revolving debt. It's good for you. So if you do a debt consolidation and let's say you include your let's say you include your vehicle. You include your vehicle in this. Well, that's not necessarily good for your credit score. Not good for your credit score. Maybe good for your pocket if it makes sense. And then personally, I'm gonna just take a little caveat right here. Personally, if you're gonna do a consolidation, and in my mind, the only place where you can do a consolidation and utilize your vehicle and put it in there and get rid of that payment is with your home. That's the next biggest thing that you might own. So when you refinance and you say, "Yep, pay off this last, $10,000, $12,000 I have on my vehicle and roll it into my home loan," I don't particularly like that. I don't like that at all because you took your last the $10,000 for that particular vehicle, which maybe you had another 2 years to pay on it. Maybe you had another, year and a half to pay on it, and you placed it in a mortgage situation that you've gotten a mortgage for 15, 20, or 30 years. And so now you strung out that $10,000, $12,000 that you're going to pay, most likely unnecessarily, for another 10, another 15, another 20, another 30 years. And that's not a good strategy to me. So I wouldn't suggest that. That's just my side. So, so yes, debt consolidation is good for you and I'm going to talk about, because some of you guys sitting there listening and saying, "Hey, we talked about FICO 10. I swear you said something a little different." I'm going to get to all that. I'm going to get to all that because there's caveats to everything, right? So if you take care of almost all of your credit card debt, a debt consolidation is good for you. Almost all of it, if not all of it. Certainly, though, if it puts you under 20 to 25%. So everybody's sitting there right now, you're listening to the show and you're thinking about your own personal situation. But not everybody only has $800 worth of credit card debt. Some people's got $4,000 worth of credit card debt. Some people have $18,000 worth of credit card debt. Some people have $50,000 worth of credit card debt. Now, I cannot imagine having $50,000 worth of credit card debt. I can't imagine 20, 25 at this point. Although at one point in my life I did have $18,000 to $20,000 worth of credit card debt. So, it's not, just for people with a little credit card debt, but people with huge amounts of credit card debt. So if you're able to do that, and if you're able to do a consolidation and get your credit utilization down to 20, 25%, definitely under that 30% threshold, your credit score is going to go up. And so that's going to be helpful for you. So yes, debt consolidation is good for you in that particular scenario if that works for you. That's what makes the offer that I have to do a credit evaluation for you for $100. That's what makes it so critical, because everybody's situation could be totally different. It could be totally different. If you're a person sitting off and you've never had more than $1,000 worth of credit card debt, you have no idea the pressure and how much that payment is with a $20,000 credit card bill or $40,000 credit card bill. It's massive, and it impacts you in a lot of ways, right? So, yes, debt consolidation can help you if it helps with that credit utilization for sure. As long as you don't run that credit card back up soon after. See how I said that really slow? As long as you don't run that credit card back up soon after. So it does you absolutely no good if you do a debt consolidation. You get rid of those credit card balances and those monthly payments that come along with it. Now you just have one payment, and then you go back out and you run those credit cards back up again. It does you no good at all. Actually, it is going to absolutely hurt your credit score, because the credit bureaus are going to see, oh, this person paid down all their credit card debt. They went from, I don't care if it's from 50% credit utilization to, or if it was 30%, and now you're down to zero. And in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, now you're back up. You're creeping up. You don't even have to go back to, straight to 50% credit utilization. But if you start creeping up, that score is going to start to fall. And you're going to be really surprised how much that score is going to fall. So when you paid it off, and then the credit bureau's updated, you paid those credit cards off, it's updated, and you got that 40-point bump, you're like, oh man, this really worked out. I got a 40-point bump in my credit score, And then now you go and you start using it a little bit, and what is in nowhere near the $8,000-$10,000 that you consolidated, for example, but you just used $200, or you used $300-$400 on the credit card, and then your credit score fell 30-35 points. You're like, how in the world is this even possible? That's what happens when you utilize your credit cards after doing a consolidation or after paying them off. Things of that nature can happen to you when you utilize your credit cards in that manner. So you've got to be diligent and know what you're doing, and don't run those credit cards back up. Now, here's another thing. So the first thing was, if it brings down your utilization, absolutely great. Of course, take care of it. As long as you don't run it off, that was number 2. As long as you don't run it up. Number 3, as long as you don't close those cards. As long as you don't close those cards. So you can do a debt consolidation, however you're going to do your debt consolidation, but as long as you don't close those cards, then it's going to work for you. It's going to work in your benefit. So closing those cards messes with your payment history. It kills your length of history. It throws your mix out of whack, and it decimates your credit, your utilization. It negatively impacts 90% of what makes up your credit score. That's a big, big fail if you do that. So do not close those cards once you pay them off. You do a debt consolidation, do not close those cards before after you've made those payments and you've got it down to zero and whatnot. Do not close those cards. That's a huge fail when it comes to your credit report and your credit score. It's going to really kill your credit score. Now, you think you've done a great job. You think you've done the right thing because it makes sense. It makes sense. I paid my debt. I paid my debt to whoever you owed. I paid my debt to the jewelry company, to the big box store, to Visa, to MasterCard, to Discover, to American Express. I paid everybody. So that should be helpful for me. That's good for you. But if you close those cards and now your utilization is down to zero and you don't have a credit card anymore, then absolutely that's going to absolutely hurt your credit score really big. Like I said, 90% of what makes up your credit score. The only thing you didn't bother or mess with was your inquiry. That's the only thing that you didn't mess up if you were to do that. So make sure that you don't do that. And I'm going to talk about that too a little bit later. I'm going to talk about why people do that or what used to happen about that too, just in a second. Another thing. So I want to say, and this is what I was talking about earlier about, I swear I heard, in a show some time ago, I heard them say something about debt consolidation being bad for you. So you got to be careful with FICO 10. So I'm going to address this right now. You got to be careful with FICO 10. I did address this in a previous show sometime this year. The newest version will penalize you big time for doing consolidation and running those cards back up again. So it's fine to do a debt consolidation, but if you run those cards back up again, like we just said, a couple steps ago, step number 2 about debt consolidation, if you run those cards back up again, it's absolutely going to kill you with FICO 10. Now, everybody's not using FICO 10. I don't know if the majority is using FICO 10. Maybe mortgage companies, but definitely not credit card companies and car places, all the other kind of people that finance your electronics and your washers and dryers and stuff like that. They're not necessarily all on FICO 10, but FICO 10 has a special carve out, if you will, that will hurt you for doing debt consolidations and then running those credit cards up even more than they used to before. So I just gave you an example about, going back and just charging $200 or whatever it is, and your score falling 30-35 points. That can absolutely happen. But on FICO 10, it's even worse. It's going to be even worse. At least that's what they claim. It's going to be worse. That's one of the things that they're looking out for in FICO 10. One of the emphasis that they have. So you want to make sure that you know how this whole game plays. So it's fine if you need to do it, if you want to do it, if it's part of your strategy. If you're like, I'm not really using the credit cards, but I'm going to start paying all my bills on the credit cards and then paying them off every month, things of that nature. Just know that oftentimes, oftentimes you get caught in that catch 22, and if it's FICO 10 that you're getting your score from, then you might be surprised and see what the difference is if you were getting your score from a FICO 8 after doing the same thing. Your score is probably higher if you were using FICO 8. I'm trying to think who it is. Maybe it's Chase or Citibank or somebody. They're could be Discover. So they're giving out FICO 8s. So it's safe to assume that's what they're using in their place. They're using FICO 8s. They haven't upgraded. They skipped 9 because nobody's going to get 9, and they'll probably go straight to 10. Nobody's going to get 9 if you're using 8 and 10's already out, and nobody liked FICO 9 anyway for whatever reason. So yeah. So just know that on FICO 10, this whole debt consolidation thing is being looked at and scrutinized more so than anything else. But all of the rest of the versions of FICO, you're perfectly fine to do a debt consolidation as long as, like we said, you don't close those credit cards. It's going to hurt you no matter which version of FICO you look at. So those are some of the positives, if you will, when it comes to your credit report and and your credit score and things to look out for when it comes to FICO, debt consolidation, and all of those things. Those are some of the things. Now, what are your consolidation options? It's not just going to get a mortgage and taking money out. You have other options of consolidating debt, right? You can get a personal loan. A personal loan, not from your aunt, your uncle, your mom, and your father. You can get a personal loan from a bank. To give you a loan, you take that money and you do whatever you told them you were going to do with it. So if it was debt consolidation, boom, you go ahead, you pay those credit cards off. You get a personal loan. That personal loan has a term, so it's not like a credit card. It has a term. It's 4 years, it's 5 years, it's 6 years, it's 2 years. It has a term to it. This is your monthly payment. It should not be fluctuating. Here is your interest rate. That interest rate should be lower than credit card interest rates. It should be. I mean, I would not venture to get a personal loan at this point in time with a 29% interest rate. Are they out there? Absolutely. There's companies that do that. That's what they do. That's what they do. But they're also for people with the 585 credit scores like I had. So if you got a 585, doesn't mean that you can't get a personal loan. It means that your bank probably won't do it for you. Maybe the credit union probably won't do it for you because you don't qualify for it because of your credit score. But there is a personal loan place out there that will absolutely lend you money. It'll just be at a 29, 30, 32% interest rate. So just so you know. So personal loan, one way to consolidate. Another way to consolidate, balance transfers. You can do a balance transfer. That's a form of consolidation. So you got a credit card, and it's got a $10,000 limit, let's say, for example, and you got 3 credit cards that may total $6,000. You can do a balance transfer and consolidate those other 3 credit cards under that one credit card with the $10,000 limit. You can absolutely do that. Typically, when they're doing those kind of offers and they come out, the interest rate is pretty good. They're usually going to charge you something for doing the transaction, whether it's a $10 as a minimum or a percentage of whatever you transfer, whether that's 3, 4, or 5% is typically what I see of whatever you transfer. That's their fee, and it goes right onto your, right onto your balance. And then they give you so many months to pay it off at a 0% interest rate. Sometimes they offer you not a 0, but maybe a 0.99% interest rate, but that'll last for 2 years or 3 years, or you can get a 4.99 for life on this particular debt that you have and you're transferring over. So yes, a balance transfer is a form of debt consolidation as well. You put it all on one card. What's the point and purpose of doing that? Still got that credit card debt, right? Well, hopefully you have a plan You have a plan to get out of that debt. So then you go to your plan to get out of that debt, and you're not paying interest on three different cards and three different interest rates, which could be 13, 15, 18, 29%, right? So you're getting a break on the interest, even if you don't fulfill the obligation within the 18 months or whatever the time frame